it was a place that loved me and made us family. Well, it's a bit of a long story that I will make brief. When I was in college in the fraternity house, one of the guys in the fraternity changed his life and suggested I read the Bible. And so I bought a Bible from him and read the New Testament twice, the first 10 or 12 books of the Old Testament twice, and got sent to Cincinnati to work for 3 years in a plant before coming back to the corporate engineering group in Toledo for Owens, Illinois. And about that time, one of the guys at work, we were talking, and I said, man, I want to play ball, but I don't have a ball team. The guy said, my church has a ball team. I said, what kind of church is it? He says, a Baptist church. I'm from up north, was a non-practicing Lutheran. My fiance was a non-practicing Catholic. And so I said, what would I have to do? He said, you got to go twice a month. I said, I can do that. And so I went to church on Good Friday of 1984, and I heard the gospel for the first time in my life. First time in my life I ever walked into a biblical church, and was immediately struck by everybody seeming to be happy to be there. They had Bibles, they paid attention, they were interested, they were nice. It was completely foreign to any personal experience I had in a church. And that man preached. His name was Harry Dooley. Brother Preston had him in for Easter revival. And for the first time, God spoke to my heart. And I knew, I'd read the scriptures, and I just knew from the moment that man preached that I needed to be saved. And I'm ashamed to say, but I was too proud to go forward. Been pretty successful in my life. I didn't know them people, and I wasn't going to go forward. And so I went home that night, to my shame. But I knew for the first time, if I died, I was going to hell. I actually put my seatbelt on, which wasn't the law then, of course, and also wasn't my nature to be cautious. And just knew. Several times over the next couple of days, I tried to ask the Lord in my heart. And I know you don't have to be in a church to be saved, but in my case, I did. It was a part of me being genuinely humble enough to call on the Lord with faith. And I went back on Sunday night. It was Easter of 1984. And Dave Self, who was the guy who had invited me, got out of the way, and I went forward and called on Christ to save me, and God changed my life. I can't say that I knew very much other than that I didn't want to go to hell. Went back to my apartment, got my bottle of Wild Turkey whiskey, poured it down the sink, got all my old college fraternity gear, threw it away. I had every clever Miller beer hat or t-shirt they had at that time. Threw them away. I'm literally in my apartment Sunday night. It's late. Wringing my hands like this. What should I do now? And I just had the thought, I'm going to call my dad. I always loved my dad. He was a good dad to me. And no sooner did I had that thought, but the phone rang. And I picked it up, and it was my dad. Highly unusual. And I said, Dad, you'll never believe this, but I was just going to call you. He said, really, why? I said, well, it's going to sound strange, but I was just going to call and tell you I got saved. He said, you're kidding me. I've been praying for that. I said, what? Now, he was a good dad. He took me fishing. He didn't beat me, though I did deserve a couple. But he wasn't that kind of a dad. I said, you're praying for me? He said, yeah. He said, I got saved 6 months ago. I said, you're kidding me. I said, where'd you get saved? He said, Monroe Missionary Baptist Church. I said, I just got saved at Friendship Baptist Church. And honestly, from really that point to this one, there has just been a hunger and a desire in my heart to know God, to understand what God did in my life, and to take what I had learned to the world around me. I just believe there were a lot of people like me who just didn't know what to do. And, that's how it all started. I was at, and I started going pretty much all the time. Most Sunday mornings, Sunday nights, Wednesday nights. I just loved going to church. I loved the people, loved Brother Preston. I just loved going, loved hearing people preach the Bible. At that time, the church was small, and Brother Preston at the end of messages would say, "Does anybody have anything to say?" And as a new Christian, I don't know what to believe. I'm literally believing everything that comes out of somebody's mouth, which isn't a good idea. And you quickly learn, some people, when they had something to say, you're like, I wonder what they have to say. And then other people, you're like, they're going to talk. And so it was just an interesting time. The church was small. And late in 1984, the year I got saved, sometime late in the fall, Brother Preston had decided to have Young Men Wednesdays in January. And so he asked me to do a Wednesday night message in January. I hadn't been saved a year, and I took the opportunity. Interestingly enough, I had the cassette tape of my first message and had it transferred to a CD a few years ago. Interesting, but I do have it, and I probably spent 40 hours studying for that message, just because I didn't want to make one single statement that wasn't right. And it was just a fire in my heart. And I did that message in January of 1985, and really when that was done, Brother Preston asked me to work with the teens. And Dean Nieporty was a youth leader then, and it turns out he was looking to have somebody else do that task. And so he was with me a couple of months, and then I became the youth leader as a volunteer. The church was small. I hadn't even quit chewing tobacco yet. And but I really was under conviction to change that, for fear that some teenager would see that and be led astray. It's a big deal to me that I not be a hindrance to someone's faith. I'm sure over the years, just because I'm human and dumb, I have hindered people's faith, but it's been my strong desire to not have that happen. And so really from that point on, and obviously because the church was small, the youth ministry was small, that's where my time at Friendship Baptist started. That's how my time in youth ministry started. And just a great ride. Well, all the way up until December of 2005, when I resigned to be able to move to Fairfield to start Bible Baptist Church here. And so a little over 20 and a half years, 13 years as a volunteer, and then 8 years on staff. I guess really when I came on staff, I don't know that I spent any more time with the teens than I did before. It was just, now you're an assistant pastor, and there's just a lot of other things that you end up doing besides teen work, which, Jake, I'm sure you have come to realize that there's a lot of the last item on your job list, whatever the pastor wants, tends to fill up pretty often, and that's fine. I enjoyed it, and it was a great run. It was interesting. Not too much after I started working with the teens, Bill Hayes started working with me, and I worked with him for 16 years. And in the summer of 1988, we took our first summer trip. and it was just a blast. We went to Hammond, Indiana, and just a handful of kids, and that's when we started the first, summer trip devotion, where you pass the Bible around. I'm assuming that probably still happens, and that all started all back then. The summer trips started all back then, and it was just a great ride. Well, directly in a high school class, it was really just, Dean Newport for a couple of months when I was his assistant. And then I was with Bill, or he was with me, however you want to look at it. We didn't really look at it like that, for 16 years. And then I was with Phil for 5 years. And then, moved on to plant a church here in Fairfield. There were a lot of men that filled other positions. I mean, Brother Greg Wilkins was, the junior high guy for years and years. And, there's too many people to name that, came alongside those others. Many, many, many people. But for the longest periods of time, it would have been Bill Hayes and Greg Wilkins and then Phil Keller right before I wrapped up there. Well, I could tell stories for hours. So some people are really good at things that happened in the past. I'm not really one of those. I'm kind of someone who lives in the present, and that has positives and negatives. But probably if you were to ask some of the things that stick out most, the first mission trip. Now, I know Friendship takes them all the time now, but back then, Friendship had never been on a mission trip. And I remember going to Brother Preston's house and taking a group of teens to Mexico. And basically asked as a fleece that if we could raise $20,000, could we do this? And again, looking back, that now I have more of a pastoral perspective and understand the situation a little better. I don't think he really wanted us to go. But he felt like there was no way we were going to come up with 20 grand. And, he was a man of God and a man of faith and trusted the people that, served with him. And, he said, yeah, if you can raise the 20 grand, you can go. And we did. And I remember the business meeting when the church, had to approve the trip, and me and the other youth leaders fasting on that Wednesday that it would pass, because it was somewhat controversial, at the time. And we went to Chilpancingo, Mexico. I think there were 51 of us, 42 or 43 teens, if I'm remembering right. And it was a different day. I don't even think we needed a passport. We had one of the leaders forgot their ID at the airport and got left behind. And so then we left two other leaders behind. It was Jeff Jones and Dave Kane in Mexico City to wait for them because they couldn't speak Spanish. And they were passing out Spanish tracts in the entrance to one of the cathedrals in Mexico City and got kicked out. And the rest of us had traveled by bus, which was about 3 hours down to Chilpancingo. And it's far enough south that the only other Americans we saw were the mission family. And again, this is just unthinkable in today's terms. But, we took public transportation. We learned to quote the Spanish track, and we would knock on doors in neighborhoods with mangy dogs and security guys with machine guns in the back of trucks, just knocking on doors. And you would ask them in Spanish, can I read the track for you? And because a lot of them were illiterate, they would let you do that. And you would read that, and then you would ask in Spanish at the end, would you like to pray and ask Jesus to forgive you? And if they said they would, we'd, get the Spanish-speaking person from the church. And it was just an incredible experience. I don't know how many people were saved. I mean, several hundred. And it was just a life-changing moment for everyone who went. And really, a life changer for Friendship Baptist Church. I mean, now, mission trips, they're regular. Back in those days, it wasn't. The teens took them. I mean, we went to St. John's in the Virgin Islands and knocked on every door on the entire island. Did vacation Bible schools in 2 locations. We went to Vancouver, British Columbia, took 5,000 New Testaments. Did backyard Bible clubs in 4 or 5 locations. The last mission trip we took was a 31-hour bus ride to South Dakota. And the bus company flew the driver somewhere. I mean, back then it wasn't like drivers, 8 hours, you're done. Who knows how long the guy drove. I guess half the trip. And, we just met somewhere. Our driver walked off, the new driver walked on, and he just stayed in the bus. I mean, 31 hours. Got outside. It was like a blow dryer in South Dakota. And we passed out 5,000 New Testaments. We gave a New Testament to every door in 10 cities. And we did, backyard Bible clubs, VBSs in 5 locations. My location was so remote that village, so to speak, if you would call it that, still had a shaman. And hadn't had any Christian work done there in 20 years. And just great privilege. Just great privilege to go out on a limb, see God work. And, it was just awesome. Just awesome. I remember the first Camp Chautauqua, and a long time ago. The theme was successful sailing on stormy seas. I've still got the shirt. It seemed clever at the time. Doesn't seem all that catchy today, but seemed clever at the time. And I remember just personally calling every independent and Southern Baptist church we knew anything about, and praying by name for 400 people to show up. I guess 300 that first time. And I remember just walking and praying for hours in my neighborhood, just walking up and down the street, praying that God would do something, and He did. They were just phenomenal, God-blessed times. And I'm thankful to have been a part of them, and thankful to still be living in them today, just in a different capacity. That's a difficult question, and there are a lot of things. I guess the first thing I would say is it was a place that loved me and made us family. We didn't have any family in town. I was very zealous as a new Christian and not always sensible, which I would take that over sensible with no zeal and doing nothing, but that's another story. And people are just patient with me, love me, just made me feel at home, included me, gave me opportunities, and I feel like I was very blessed to be saved there. The church was well administrated. The people were good, sincere, godly people, for the most part. I mean, there's always a few stinkers. We got some here if you would like some. But for the most part, just good, godly people, and taught me how to be a good husband, a good dad, what it meant to believe the Bible, and practice it. And I will be forever grateful for my roots there forever. Well, I love to talk about Duke basketball and Michigan football and myself. And since really none of those three subjects are what anyone else wants to hear, that's probably about all I have.